Hello and welcome back. Continuing on the conversation on the decision making, we mentioned if in the last video. The else statement means if the condition is not the case in the if statement, then do the scope inside the else. So it's an if and else situation. So check out this example. Assuming you wish to go grocery shopping to buy fish, but you decide if there's no fish, then you want to buy steak. Such a case is an example of if statement. I'll show you. So I have this variable called shop items, which is kind of simulating the items they have in the grocery shop. And let's assume they have steak, beef, and shrimp, but your intention is to buy a fish. Okay, now check this out. I could say if there's a fish in the shop items, then I bought fish. Let's see if this condition is going to run. Obviously it's not going to run because there's no fish, so the line 5 would not print. Then I can come here and do else. And I can say print no fish, so I bought. I'll do this shop items, the first element in shop items. So there's some things I want you to look into. After the next step, whenever I'm writing the else statement, I remove the indentation. It goes in its own separate line. It wouldn't be right here like I was having the print statement. It wouldn't be here. This would be an error, so I have to remove it from the block of the if statement. The else statement has to be on its own. Then I am printing if there's a fish in shop items, print I bought fish. Otherwise, which is this else followed by the colon, I say print no fish, so I bought. What I did here is called concatenation. We mentioned this before, and doing this means I'm picking the first element in the shop items. So in programming, when you have a list, it's always in the form of an index. So the first one has the index of 0, the second item in the list has the index of 1, and the third item in the list has the index of 2. So like that. So the first item always has the index 0. So when I open a bracket like this, a square bracket like this, and I do 0, then it means it should take this first element. So let's see. So if I run this, what I get is no fish, so I bought steak. So it's gonna take the first item in the list, which is steak. Assuming I put 1, then it's going to take no fish, so I bought beef. I'm going to debug this so you can see what we're talking about. So you can imagine I went to the market to buy fish, and when I got to the market, I have this item steak, beef, and shrimp. So the control checks if fish is in the shop items. So obviously fish is not in it, so it's going to skip over the if and go to the else. Then it's going to execute what's on the next statement, which says no fish, so I bought index element 1, which is beef, so I bought beef. Another example is to check if an individual is old enough to vote. So we want to see if the individual is above 18 years old, then any other vote. But any or but 18, then I'm out of till the vote or multiplication here. So in a case like that, an if and else statement come into play. So we're going to ask the individual for their age using input. Say, how old are you? Okay. And remember, we're going to get this in a variable, age equals to that. Also remember, whenever we do how old are you, the input always come in the form of a string. So I want to concatenate it into an int. So I'm changing it from string to an integer. Then I can use the if statement to see if the age is greater than or equal to 18. Then I can say print you can vote. Otherwise, else, then I can say you cannot vote. Okay, so let's run this program and see what we have. So the program is going to ask how old are you. Let's say I'm 15. Then it's going to come to this else statement that you cannot vote. But I'm going to run the program again. Then it asks how old are you. So I'm going to say I'm 19. Then the if statement executes. I would like to debug this and show you. I put my breakpoint on line 1 and it paused at line 1. So when I step over, it asks over here, how old are you? Let's say I'm 14. Then if I hit enter, it comes, can you see the age, which is this variable, is coming in the form of a string. Then this line 3 might change the lattice string lossy integer. Watch this. Then it changed an integer 14. Then it checks if 14 is greater than 18. So 14 is not greater than 18. Oma skip line 6 and then Oma lossy else. Then it says you cannot vote. So there you go. We can do one more example, and like the example of we want to check if a number is even or odd. So I can say number and ask the user for a number. Say enter a number. Then I would like to convert a number to an integer and say if, remember how we check for an even number, we can say if the number modulo 2, if it's 0, then you can say you entered an even number. But if you modulus the number and the remainder is not 0, else I'm just gonna skip this. Okay, else. Okay, so if number modulo 2 is 0, then it's an even number. Then we can come and say it is not an even number. So if I run a lane now, say Python, say enter a number. This is my enter 8. Say you entered an even number because 8 modulo 2 would give me 0. So if I was to enter another number that is not an even number, say I enter 5, then I say it is not an even number. So that's how the if and the else decision making in Python works. The if always evaluates a condition. If it is true, it enters the block or the suite. But if it is not true and you're having an else statement, then it's going to enter the else statement. There are also some conditions where you have something else called a leaf in decision making, like in a decision where you want to go to a market, you wanted to buy fish and you see if they don't have fish but they have steak, buy steak. If they do not have fish and they do not have steak, then buy something else. So at that point, you're already having more than one condition or more than two conditions. So situations where you have more than two conditions, you can use something else called a leaf. And I'll be covering that in the next video session. Thank you for watching this. Subscribe if you haven't. And I'll see you in the next video session. Ẹ ṣé gan. Ó dàbọ̀.